welcome to the Blindfold Chess Podcast.
This week, we are going to an area of the world we haven't covered too much in this podcast, New Zealand, specifically a 20-year president of his local club, a 20-year chess column editor, a 10-time national competitor, and a 2-time national champion spanning over 10 years, including the first New Zealand National Championship, Henry Hookham. Henry was born in 1824 in London. When he was around 10 years old, he learned how to play chess. In a book on the Hookham family history written by Sandy McFarlane, she says that Henry defeated the local schoolmaster in chess at the age of 12. In 1839, at the age of 15, he left school to work in his family library, which was a private library that contained almost 40,000 books that his grandfather had founded in the 1760s. Growing up, he would visit various chess clubs playing against some of London's strongest players, including Johannes Zatorski, Charles Janssen, and Ernst Karl Folkbier, who the Folkbier counter-gambit is named after. By the 1850s, Henry had become a part owner of the family library. However, when the 1860s rolled around, he was looking for something new. In pursuit of a more active lifestyle and acquiring land, he convinced his family to convert the library to a limited liability company to allow him to withdraw cash to take himself, along with his wife and 5 children, from London to New Zealand, where a major migration effort was occurring. They left London never to return and arrived in New Zealand at the age of 41 in 1865. Upon arriving, he farmed on the Kaipoi Island near Christchurch. That same year that he and his family arrived in New Zealand, he also founded the Kaipoi Chess Club. In 1870, he played and won the Canterbury Chess Tournament, a handicap tournament with different strengths of players having different material odds. The following year, back in London, Henry's brother Thomas informed Henry that their family business was not doing well, eventually putting the company into liquidation. For the rest of Henry's life, he would be sending small payments back to London to help his brother financially. In the middle of the 1870s, Hookham made a pivot from farming to teaching, where he eventually became headmaster of the Yaldhurst School in Canterbury. He also ran the school's library and the local Kaipoi library, arranging for 2,500 books from his family's library to go to the Kaipoi library. While that was happening, he was also a supporter for helping build the New Zealand chess scene, culminating in the creation of the first national tournament of New Zealand in 1879. The event was organized by the Christchurch Chess Club as a double round-robin event containing 8 players. People playing within 15 miles of Christchurch had to pay a 5 guinea entry fee, which was the equivalent of between $900 to $1,200. That is a very expensive tournament, but the objective was twofold. 1, it would lower the number of local participants, and 2, it would limit those that were playing to only be those that could win the tournament. Outside of that 15-mile range, that entry fee was waived. 5 players ended up playing from Christchurch, while 3 commuted the 200-mile or 350-kilometer distance from Dunedin to play in August of 1879. After the 14-round tournament with a time control of 15 moves per hour, Hookham was sitting atop the standings with David Hay of Dunedin. A single-game playoff that took 6 hours eventually went Hookham's way, allowing him to take home a £50 first-place prize, which in today's dollars is between $8,700 and $11,500 USD, and for coming in second, Hay received a £20 prize about 3,400 to 4,400 USD today. But more importantly, Hookham became the first official New Zealand chess champion at the age of 55. Shortly after the tournament, there was a falling out of the Christchurch Chess Club, eventually causing it to disband and a new club, the Canterbury Chess Club, forming in its place. In the early 1880s, Hookham retired from teaching to focus more on chess, and in 1882 he became the editor of the Canterbury Times chess column. In 1884, he played P.F. Jacobson, one of the strongest players of the region, in a match, just barely winning with 7 wins, 6 losses, and 8 draws. And that same year, he was elected to the presidency of the Canterbury Chess Club. In 1887, Hookham traveled to Adelaide, Australia, to compete in the first Australian national tournament, becoming New Zealand's first international chess representative at the age of 63. At the time, Australia had had several state and regional tournaments, but due to how large the country is and how sparsely populated most of it is, it was difficult to coordinate a national tournament. Hookham did not do well in that event, finishing in the bottom 4 places after having gotten ill on that trip. However, returning to New Zealand, he began the process of hosting another national championship in 1888 with the intent of having the tournament become an annual event. So, in the 1888 championship, he finished in 4th, ending his 9-year reign as the New Zealand champion. That dethroning did not take too long. In the next annual tournament in 1890, he finished in a tie for first, leading to a playoff against Richard J. Barnes that Hookham won, earning him his second and final New Zealand championship title. Hookham played in each of the first 10 New Zealand chess championships, but as he got older, his placement began to fall. From a tie for second to 6th to 6th to 5th to 6th to 3rd, and finally, in 1897, at the age of 73, he finished in a tie for 9th. The following year, in 1898, he passed away. He is well regarded in the history of the New Zealand chess community. He helped develop the chess scene. He led the nation as a player, editor, and president for almost 2 decades. And even today, 150 years later, there is the Henry Hookham Cup with engravings of each New Zealand champion engraved on the side. For our game this week, we are going to go back to the first Australian Championship from 1887. Henry Hookham versus Joseph Witton. Now, if we're ready, let's begin.
One pawn to d4. Pawn to d5. Two, knight f3. Pawn to e6. Three, pawn to e3.
We are looking at a Kali system game today. Systems aren't typically known for heavy theoretical placement of pieces or for being super aggressive. A system is putting pieces on specific squares without too much confrontation and without too much consideration of what your opponent is doing. Then once those pieces are in place, you can start to develop your plan and start attacking. Other systems could be like the London system, the English Botvinnik system, and the Vienna game.
Knight f6. Four, bishop d3. Bishop d6. 5. Castle kingside. Castle kingside. 6. Pawn to b3. Pawn to c5. Seven. Bishop b2. Knight c6. Eight. Knight b to d2. Pawn to b6. Nine. Pawn to c4.
With a center full of tension with pawns on d4, c4, c5, and d5, how many defenders does white have of the d4 square? That would be 3. The bishop that is on b2, the knight that is on f3, and the pawn that is on e3. Another fun fact about these types of positions where 4 pawns are meeting in the middle of the board, it is not uncommon for this position to resolve itself, leaving one of the sides with one isolated pawn, usually the queen pawn. So each side needs to think to see if they want to be left with the IQP or give it to their opponent. There are both pros and cons to that pawn structure. You just need to know how to play with it and against it.
Bishop b7. Ten. Rook e1. Rook e8. Eleven. Rook c1. Rook c8. 12. Knight e5. Pawn c captures d4. Thirteen. Pawn e captures d4. Pawn d captures c4. Fourteen. Knight d captures c4.
White had the option to play pawn b captures on c4, but now white has an isolated queen pawn. In general, white is trying to protect the pawn that is on d4, but also leverage the extra space that the pawn provides, which is the c5 and e5 squares, while black is either trying to trade pieces off to make that pawn look weak, or trying to blockade the pawn so that way it doesn't advance further down the board.
Bishop b4. Fifteen. Rook e3. Queen d5. Sixteen. Rook g3. Rook e to d8. 17. Knight e3. Queen d6. Knight 5 to g4. Knight h5.
Black's move of knight to h5 attacks your rook that is on g3, but this is also a bad blunder from black. If you were in white's shoes, how would you follow up?
Knight h6 check. King f8. Queen captures h5. Pawn g captures h6. Queen captures h6 check. King e7. Pawn to d5.
What is the point of the move pawn to d5? For one thing, it is putting pressure on the knight that is on c6, and for a second thing, it is opening up the long dark square diagonal that the bishop on b2 occupies, allowing for the bishop and the queen to both attack the f6 square.
Rook g8.
Black is giving white several options in this position. The black knight on c6 is up for grabs, the f6 square is a threat, and black is offering a rook trade on the g8 square. If you were in white's shoes, what would you do in this position?
Queen f6 check.
Queen to f6 is the most forcing line in the position. Black has two options: going back to e8, where he loses the rook immediately to rook captures on g8, or king to d7, which walks him into the pawn capture of pawn captures on c6 check, so white can accomplish all of his objectives by going this route.
King d7. Pawn d captures c6 check. Bishop captures c6. Rook captures g8. Rook captures g8. Queen captures f7 check. Black resigns.
Why did black resign in this position? The black king is currently in check on d7, so black is either going to have to move the king or block the check. Regardless, white can play queen captures on g8 and go up a full rook and still have a dominating position. Hookham's legacy is known locally in New Zealand and Australia, but outside of that, many may not know him, and if you were to backdate his rating compared to his peers, it places him in the high expert or low master range. But he had a profound impact on his community. That is part of the reason why I wanted to make this episode. Everybody listening can be impactful in your local community. Regardless of your age, regardless of your rating, the people around you are the ones that you impact the most, and who are the ones that will remember you the most. So be kind to the people who are around you. Help teach the new people that come to your club. Be a good advocate for the game and for the people around you. Participate in your local board. Write some chess columns if you want to. Go direct a tournament. Just do what you can for your local community. So that is all that we have for this week. Tune in next time where we will continue to work on our blindfold skills and look at another game of the Masters.